Okay, so I did watch all 3 hours of Harry and Meghan, their Netflix special, and I'm going to go on on with Steph and Andy, and do a little watch party with them on Steph's channel in just a bit, 3:30 Eastern. But I wanted to go ahead and so yes, I'm going to watch it again and react to it. But I wanted to go ahead and talk about what I thought of this. So very, very quickly, okay? I have talked before about my issues with Harry and Meghan, how I think that they're engaging in slander of their family, misrepresentations, at times outright lies that they told in that Oprah interview, I think are really just inexcusable. Well, inexcusable, but I think that they're just really like wrong. And I hated that Oprah interview, and I feel like there's some things that they're just that Meghan and Harry continue to miss the mark on. Now, I did think that this recent show, this Netflix special, I did think that it was more restrained than I expected it to be. It was more restrained than the Oprah interview, and I think someone had a talk with them and got through to them and told them that if they're going to go on TV and complain for hours about their lot in life or whatever, that at least they don't want to seem so sort of angry and petty when they do it. And so it has been the tone and the aggressiveness of it has been dialed back from the Oprah interview. And some of the misrepresentations or lies that were told in that interview have not so far been perpetuated, but we haven't gotten to part two yet, right? Because so far, this is just the first half that's been released on Netflix. And then I think in another week or two, then part two, 3 more hours will be released, and that'll cover more recent events, right? So these episodes covered them meeting and falling in love and the lead up to getting married, and then the difficulties that she faced in the press around that time, right, before and then right after her marriage. So here are my issues with them. I understand and I think that it is valid to critique the media and to critique the idea, as Harry did last night, that someone should have to be born into a situation like the royal family, like these princes and princesses, should have to be born into a situation where they are the object of so much media scrutiny and so much publicity and get hounded a lot by the media. I think that that is a legitimate complaint, and I also think that it's legitimate to question whether, as a part of being with the royal family, that the royal family should have to endure so much tabloid coverage and so much, at times, pestering or intrusive coverage by the media. I think that these are very legitimate issues, and I've never had a problem with those issues. And I think that if Meghan and Harry could stick to just presenting those issues, then and getting people to engage and empathize in those ways, and I think that they could be much more effective. But the problem is, what has come along with that is that they don't want to just do those things. They also want to slander their family, or Harry's family and the royal family, and they want to, for instance, the Oprah interview, misrepresent things and lie about things. They also, and you see this a lot in the show that just came out, they seem really intent, fixated on the idea that they are suffering a special kind of affliction in life, that they are specially have been specially targeted, that what they are enduring is in some way unique. This is just a pervasive feeling that I keep getting when I watch the Oprah interview or I watch other interviews with them, and certainly this recent program. And I think that I know that Harry went through a lot when he lost his mother. I mean, that's self-evident. That's obvious. And no one's arguing with that. And like I said, I understand the media thing. It's intrusive. It's problematic. But Harry, what I want to say to you is that you were not the only one in life born into shackles of some kind. It's just that you have been told in various ways over the years so many times that you have a particular kind of particularly strong set of shackles, or particularly restrictive. And that in Meghan Markle's case, it's particularly difficult because of, a few racist, or I should say racially oriented stories like Straight Out of Compton that were in the media. And the thing is, that's just not true. All of us are born into shackles. And a number of people are born into shackles that are far worse than the ones that you were born into. All right? A lot of people are born into the shackles of poverty or of having a father who's absent or not there. You know, you had a father who doted on you, who was a really good father, who did not continue the colder patterns of his upbringing. And even in the other members of the royal family, your grandparents, for instance, you have, perhaps not Andrew, but you have in a number of them fundamentally decent people. It's not as bad as a lot of people have it. I think that, Harry, you have this idea that everybody else out there has this really, very saccharine, very, beautiful, healthy, wholesome family life, whereas most people are from dysfunctional families and often deeply dysfunctional. And no, I didn't lose my mother and I didn't get hounded by the media growing up, but I can look at my life and I'm not going to enumerate them here, but I can go through list a number of things that I think altogether, I think I had it worse than you did. But it's not a contest, all right? And I think that there's a real opportunity for growth in recognizing and coming to terms with the fact that your suffering actually, generally speaking, is not unique or is not uniquely difficult. You are not uniquely afflicted. It's just everybody has different kinds of afflictions. They have different kinds of shackles they were born into. But nobody is born into a situation with absolute freedom. Everyone is born into situations with various constraints, whether it's financial, which is something you don't know about as much, or it's, relational, or it's abuse, or it's being born into, weird religious perspectives. It's just all kinds of things that people deal with, the shackles that people are born into. And I used to be a teacher. I still teach occasionally part-time, and every day I have students who bemoan the fact to me that they want to do one thing, but they're being pressured by their family or by their parents to do something else, or that for whatever circumstances, life has conspired against them, like they can't be what they want to be or do what they want to do. Like, this is a normal thing. Pain, suffering are normal things. And Harry, when you tell me that women in the royal family, there's a special kind of suffering that they endure, or they have to endure this suffering, and then I see that what you're talking about is being chased by the paparazzi. I'm going to say something that's really controversial here, and some people are going to be amazed, I guess, that I'm saying this, but I mean it. I really don't see how being chased by the paparazzi, and when I say chased, I mean they show pictures of, like, okay, Kate Middleton or Princess Diana or Meghan Markle. They step outside of their apartment or their home and they walk down the street, and while they're walking, there are people walking with them, screaming out their name, taking pictures. But honestly, the cases of people actually being hurt by paparazzi are very rare. And in general, I just don't, yes, I understand it's annoying. I understand it's intrusive. I understand that people can grow to hate it. But here's the thing, there's all kinds of things that we all have to put up with every day that we hate. And I have to put up with things in my daily life almost every day that I can guarantee you I hate more than Meghan and Harry are troubled on a daily basis by paparazzi. And I know what people would say, well, but they killed his mother. No, they didn't. And I keep saying this in my videos, and I'm going to keep saying it. Just because there are paparazzi in the car next to you or the motorcycle behind you or whatever doesn't mean that you have to drive recklessly, that you have to have a drunk driver driving you. Yes, Diana's driver was drunk. That you have to be using reckless tactics like Dodi Fayed was using and how he was managing the press. And finally, people don't want to hear this, but I keep saying it. It's well known that Diana, when she was on that vacation with Dodi, she's the one who called the media and made sure not only that they knew her whereabouts, but that they were going to get pictures and they were going to go everywhere, because she wanted to use that vacation that she was on with Dodi as a way to make Hasnat Khan, her lover, her ex-lover, who had just broken things off with her, that she wanted to marry, she wanted to make him jealous. So it's just not a clean cut thing of like the media killed his mother. Right? If the media were killing royals or they were killing celebrities, then there would be celebrities and royals getting knocked off right and left from having to deal with paparazzi, but that's just not the case. And it's actually very rare that people get injured. I'm not saying it's a great situation, and I'm not saying he can't critique it, but again, this idea that there's this special suffering. And look, Meghan Markle, I one of the things that I really disliked in this documentary is their refusal to take responsibility for this media attention and the fact that Meghan Markle had been relentlessly, assiduously, single-mindedly, you could say, pursuing media attention and tabloid attention. In fact, right before she was connected with Prince Harry to go on this date, she had been doing everything she could, meeting with tabloid reporters and gossip columnists, and she was trying to plant stories. We just know this. This isn't even in doubt. She's trying to plant stories in the tabloids about herself. And she was trying to plant stories about her dating Ashley Cole when she wasn't, or him being interested in her. And she was coming to the end of her career. Suits was coming to an end, and she was desperate for fame. And she saw her window closing. In fact, I'm not saying that she married Harry for fame. I know what H.G. Tudor would say, and he does interesting videos about Meghan being perhaps a narcissist, but I don't know. I don't know why she married him. Maybe she genuinely loves him. But she did get initially connected with him because she was looking for fame. And in fact, wasn't it like a mutual friend of theirs who was a gossip columnist or whatever that sort of helped to arrange that meetup? I'm blanking on the logistics of that right now. But my point is, come on, Meghan Markle has gotten exactly what she wanted. It's just that she doesn't realize, and Harry doesn't seem to realize, that when you get what you want in life, nothing comes without a price tag. And due to the dichotomous nature of life, the yin and the yang, anything that's a positive is going to entail always a tremendous negative. All right? You get the man of your dreams. He's going to have aspects that drive you crazy or that you even hate, or maybe that you over time you can't even live with. You get the job of your dreams, you're going to find that it's got all these issues. I was talking the other day. Look at the video that I just did, the controversy edition. I talk about the difficulties in running a YouTube channel, that there are all these things that I didn't anticipate, and that I feel like I'm kind of in this sort of interesting, or problematic no man's land or zone of tension where there's all of this work entailed, but I'm not quite to the point financially where it can be more than a hobby. And so it's not bringing in the money for the amount of time I'm putting into it. And yet I'm making progress, right? So I'm kind of like, I'm getting what I want, but then also there's all this negativity because there's all this work and all these, people wanting things from me and stuff I've got to keep up with and videos now that I've got to keep up and all that, right? Mo money, mo problems. Or in this case, mo YouTube, mo problems. Well, it's the same with them. Meghan, did you not think that that if you got all of this influence you wanted, and if you got all this media attention, and if you did finally become somebody big, did you not think that that would entail a lot of negative issues? But you just don't want to deal with that. You don't think you should have to, and that's where this entitled attitude comes from. And the thing is, Meghan and Harry, they could go away if they wanted to. They have always had enough money to live a decent life if they wanted to, and a quiet life. They didn't have to go after the $100 million Spotify deal or the $100 million Netflix deal or however much money that was. They don't have to be going to the United Nations, it seems like every month, to accept an award or lecture people and stuff or whatever. They don't have to be doing the Oprah interview. They don't have to be doing this documentary. They don't have to be doing these things. Thing is, they want to. They want a higher profile. They are, at this very moment that they complain about having this high profile, they are in the very act of trying to up their profile. And that's okay. I'm trying to up my profile on YouTube, but and yes, you can have down days. I have down days. You can have days where you complain. But to go on this perpetual media campaign as they have been going on against their family and blaming their family and blaming racism, that's the thing that really gets me too. Because our society has made a lot of progress when it comes to racial stuff. And I actually think that it's bad for race relations. I think that it's bad for race relations to have these two claiming that there is this deep-seated racism in society, and that this is a huge problem in the media, the racist media and racist society, and oh my God, a racist royal family. You're telling me that the royal family in the year 2022, they're accusing the royal family of being racist. They did so on Oprah. And I'm sure that's where this documentary is going in the next part. That is deeply damaging. In the year 2022, that is deeply damaging. You know, people don't want to put up with that if there's a racist royal family. I don't believe they are, but I'm just saying that Meghan and Harry, I understand you've got issues in life. You've got problems. We all do. But you seem determined to see yourself as having this special victim status and to see that life has it out for you and other people have it out for you in this special way, this unique way. And instead of focusing on all of this avalanche of positive attention that Meghan got for a number of reasons, but one of those being her race and people saying this is a bold new day for the royal family, and people shaking Meghan's hand in line saying it's so important, and women, a black woman crying, it's so important to have a black woman here, or a woman who's partly black. It's just like they wanted all of that attention, right? All this positive attention. And so why, when you're getting this avalanche of positive attention and people are telling you that you're doing great things for race relations and you're moving the royal family into a bold future and people in the royal family are treating you well, and they did, and yet you're going to focus on this hand, and the media in general are celebrating you as they did in the early days, as they did until Meghan and Harry started, lecturing people hypocritically and showing these attitude issues. But in the early days, the press loved her, even into the early days of their marriage. But you're not going to focus on all that. You're going to focus on these small, isolated instances. You're going to get all bent out of shape over a straight out of Compton title in a tabloid. I get it. Yeah, I get it. It's got racial connotations. It's annoying. I'm not saying it's great. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just saying that, yes, imperfection is a part of life. But focus on all the progress that was made, all of the celebration and acclaim that you got, and focus on all of the influence that you're able to have. I would love to have the influence and the position and the notoriety and the money that Meghan and Harry have. So it's like, I do think, this gets to a deeper issue in psychology and even in therapy. And I talked about this with a friend of mine the other day on Patreon. I do this Patreon thing for people who want it. You pay $29 and you get to talk to me for 29 minutes. I know it's kind of gimmicky, but some people wanted to talk to me, and sometimes they want to talk to me about like serious issues in their life, chat about those things, and then sometimes they want to just, shoot the shit, right? But I was talking to someone last night, and we were talking about this idea that one of the interesting questions in therapy is, at what point is it no longer a good idea to wallow in victimization, in one's traumas, in one's past? There is a fine line there. Certainly from a psychoanalytic perspective, I come from the place, and I think most therapists come from the place, that you have to have self-awareness first before you can start to solve your problems or work on your problems. And to have that self-awareness, you have to go through the past. You have to talk about your childhood. You have to talk about your traumas. You have to, in some sense, relive, right, these things and work through them in various ways and varying strategies, right? But there does get to a point where fixating on one's grievances and one's problems and on the ways in which life has not been kind to one, and on abuse in one's past or whatever, that fixating on that too much or too extensively, it can actually lead to a kind of fragility. And I think that there's a fine line between working on one's problems and getting therapy and yet wallowing. And there does come a point when one does have to find a certain reserve of strength within oneself. And one has to have a certain, yes, stoicism about life, and understand that the imperfection is a part of life, and that one is not, and that just because one is suffering or even suffering deeply at times does not mean that one is being in some way specially targeted by life, or that it's anyone's fault. I mean, it's God's fault if you want to look at it that way, and that's where the ultimate blame goes. But I feel like Meghan and Harry are just still stuck back at this stage where, it seems like by this point, okay, all the things that have gone wrong in your life or whatever. So now let's start to move on without all of this, drama and accusations and misrepresentations and grievance. and blaming everyone, blaming society. And I don't appreciate what they've done for race relations with all this, because accusing the royal family of being racist and accusing the media of being racist and accusing society of being racist and perpetuating this idea that when Meghan came into the royal family, that suddenly there was just an onslaught of all of this hate, and that hate, that online trolling that all public figures have to deal with, right? That I have to deal with, um, that's somehow representative of the whole, or that's a deeper problem with you and me and society and the royal family, that we live in this racist society. And I just think that it's not a healthy message. And yes, I actually think that Meghan and Harry, what they've done, they have hurt race relations. So I don't like that. People say, "What's your problem with them?" Well, my problem is that I think on the whole, they've been given a tremendous gift in a lot of ways with all this influence and their media image and the fact that people initially liked them a lot, and they have all these resources at their disposal and PR people and all this, and yet they seem intent on not doing a whole lot that's positive for society. It's sort of this empty, woke platitudes, and then a lot of grievance, just a heavy dose of grievance and self-victimization and anger and recrimination and misrepresentation. And, I think that Harry, he thinks that he's fighting so hard to get away from his past, but really he is repeating a number of the patterns of the past. Harry said multiple times in that documentary that Meghan was just like his mother. He said that. She's just like my mom, just like my mom. She is my mom. And I know that that's normal. It's normal for us to pursue lovers and relationships with people who remind us of our parents, for better or for worse, right? But it also is, if one has issues with one's parent, or if one had a problematic relationship and one has not processed that, and one is just sort of blindly now pursuing people that remind one of one's parents, I guess what I'm saying is I don't think that Harry has come to terms with the ways in which his mother damaged him. I think he's angry at his father, and he's angry at the royal family, and he's angry at the media. And in all of those things, there is some justification, because we all have reasons to be angry at everyone, because we're all imperfect. We all fuck up. But I think that he's focused on all of these different sources, but because his mother died, he's not able to look at the fact that this primary relationship in his life, that it also had a very damaging aspect. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. Diana was a deeply complicated woman. I've talked about this with Andrea Burkhart. She agrees with me. I've read a number of biographies about her, studied her. She was a deeply complicated woman, but and in a number of ways she was a great mother and a loving woman, but in a number of ways, because she was deeply damaged by her own problematic upbringing and psychologically abusive upbringing, she did some bad things to those boys. I'm talking about in terms of what I would classify as emotional abuse, and they did not have an easy time with her. And I understand she was unhappy with Charles, but Charles was unhappy with her. She was the first one who cheated, et cetera, et cetera. It's complicated. And if you want to look at my other videos on the topic of the royal family to see me unpack that more, you can. But I'll give you an example. There was a nanny early on when Harry and, I'm not talking about Tiggy Leg Burke, but there was a different nanny when Harry and William were very, very young, that they got extremely attached to. And she was a very nice woman, a good woman, a great motherly influence, and a lot of stability that the kids needed, because things with their parents were rocky. And Diana, because one of Diana's issues was jealousy, she fired that nanny because for that reason, because she got too close to the boys, and the boys liked her or loved her too much. Diana would have would lock herself in the bathroom, and William, and Harry would have to say, "Mom, what's wrong?" And she's crying and all that. And I'm just saying, like, and Diana would have these emotional tantrums. This is just well known and verified. Multiple friends have verified this. Almost along the lines of a kind of a borderline personality disorder. I'm not saying she had that, although she was diagnosed by the palace at one point with it, but palace doctors. But she had these emotional outbursts. I mean, I'm just saying that those boys were damaged by Diana. I think as much or more as they were damaged by the royal family, but they just can't see it. And whether that's true or not, I do believe that Harry has not processed a lot of that damage from Diana, and I think that he is now in a classic Freudian repetition compulsion cycle, where he has chosen a woman who reminds him of his mother and unfortunately I think lacks the good qualities, number of the better qualities that Diana had, and maybe has more intense negative qualities. And now, like Oedipus, who, Oedipus was running away from the prophecy that he so wanted to escape, that he was going to kill his dad and marry his mom. And he says, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to run away from it. And he doesn't realize that it is on the very road that he's taking to run away from his problems that he's going to meet his fate. Because in fact, he meets his real father, he kills him, and then he ends up meeting his mom and marrying her unknowingly. And I've talked about this before, this dynamic of how the unconscious sabotages us, and we can think that we're doing one thing when we're really doing the opposite. Look at the video that I did on my philosophy playlist about Narcos. I did a short video about the TV show Narcos Mexico and the idea of self-destruction and the repetition compulsion and the Oedipus story. But I'm not saying that Harry has an Oedipal complex. I'm saying that, though, just like in the classic myth of Oedipus, Oedipus thinks he's running away. He's doing everything he can to run away from his fate. Like Harry running away from his family, running all the way to California, and even then continuing to try to tear them down, to fight them by tearing them down in the press. And yet, I don't think that Harry realizes that the fate that he's run to and the woman that he's run to is a repetition of a number of the deeply scarring psychological dynamics that he had in his upbringing and, yes, with his mother. So anyway, there's a lot to unpack there. And like I said, you can check out the most recent video that I just did, the controversy edition, where I talk more about my views of Harry and Meghan and some of this other stuff, right? But as always, if you enjoyed this, like, subscribe. You can tip me below if you found any of this helpful. The links are below. And I think that, I don't know what I was about to say. But everybody, I'm going to be on Steph and Andy's in just a little while at 3:30 Eastern. And yeah, check it out. Bye-bye.